Good evening, everybody. My name is Lyndon. I'm CEO of a company called Beep Extra, cyberspace company. And tonight I'm going to be having a little chat with a friend of mine for about 3 years, Sukh. He's very kindly offered to come on and give us some clarification on certain points. I've known you, Sukh, for about 3 years. We've been on this journey together on common law. And I know you as I put you in the filing cabinet of common law advocates. If I wanted a common law question asking, or a constitution question asking, or statutory law question asking, I'd ask you or someone very similar to you, because you seem to have got this subject very well studied. So I'd like to ask you a few things tonight, but it's just so people know about who Sukh is. Do you want to give us some background on how you started on this journey?
Hi, Lyndon. Hi, everybody. Yeah, certainly. I started on the journey of common law and constitution during Brexit. So it was really trying to get to the underlying argument, because obviously the BBC's notion that all of England and Britain was right wing, and that didn't sit right. I had a lot of people within family, friends who, come from sort of non-English backgrounds, if you like, immigrant backgrounds, who also voted to leave the EU. So there were a number of arguments in there. So when I started to research it, I came across the Constitution, the British Constitution. It was obviously fed America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and sort of Commonwealth. And the most importantly, I suppose, the enormous by trial by jury process that sits within it, that protects the people from tyrannical governments or monarchs or authority.
All right, cool.
And so I've started my journey by going and meeting the British Constitution group. So William Key, Justin Walker, Brian Gerrish of UK Column, Eddie Elder, who was working there and supporting them. And that's really, I've been working with them ever since in different capacities, just to understand and forward people's understanding of the power that they have through a jury. It's not something to be taken lightly. That's why it's important. I felt it was important to speak to you about what a proper process is to make a jury's verdict valid, really. So.
Yeah, well, we've been talking in the last couple of weeks in quite, intense detail about this. So we'll keep this nice and brief for the listeners, because what happened, the viewers will know this, that by now, that my business partner Angelos and I were invited to go to Spain to speak with John Smith of Common Law Court, and John Smith dropped out of that, but we brought in substitutes in a good friend of mine, Bruce Lamb, that I've known for a long time, 15 years. I've known Bruce, and he's a great guy. He stepped in, and he actually couldn't get on the plane, so he had to turn around at Luton Airport and go back, and then he had to do the whole thing on Zoom, talking about common law to the attendees of this weekend event. And so Bruce was there, but all of us got talking, and the event was for a woman called Dolores. Okay, she's a Spanish woman living in the United States half the time, well, most of the time in the United States, to my understanding. And so me, Angelos, Bruce, Dolores, we all got talking the day or so before the event. I know that Bruce and Dolores were very frustrated, as were Angelos and I, that the constable training was not moving at anything like the speed that we wanted to. It just seemed to be frustrated at every twist and every turn. And we had a common law court to create, to teach people at the event how to run a common law court. Okay, so the idea was put forward to run a common law court, to ask the people, for the authority of the people, to create an independent constable body, and to create a new community, and to create 3 websites: a website to allow people to declare their living status, a completely separate constable body website and a completely separate community site. And I was told by somebody in this arena that we should have done a grand jury. I was told 2 or 3 times over a 2 or 3 year period that John Smith's common law court of the jury of 12 should have been a grand jury of 25, because a grand jury of 25 carries authority around the world. I can see that. Yeah, so
it doesn't matter. There's no notion of a grand jury in the Constitution. There's no notion of grand jury, because the verdict of the 12 is the verdict. Adding another 13 people to the jury doesn't suddenly make that representative of an international population. For it to be an international, if people are saying they want to create an international body, an international constitution where a jury is of 25 because you've got the world to include, or they can go about looking at that and discussing that as they see fit. But within the context of national constitutions all around the Five Eyes countries and the Commonwealth, a jury of 12 gives the verdict, the final verdict. It's powerful enough to be able to annul any items, legislation, rules that come in from any group of people or body that they don't wish to live under, that they feel infringes on their rights. The 12 can annul it. So the notion of adding another 13 on there is bizarre, and it's really subversion of the Constitution. It's like some people believe they can rewrite the Constitution. It's a similar sort of notion. They're sort of moving away from the core. The Constitution doesn't need rewriting. It just needs understanding. People need to learn to study it. Increase your intelligence level when you're academic.
If I can just rewind a touch onto that, and perhaps we can come back to the grand jury subject in a second. For our sins for doing that weekend, John Smith was not best pleased from day one. Okay, he did start blackmailing me with a common law court summons myself. Now, I know you've seen a common law court summons to somebody okay, and that individual went from 0 to 700 constables before they were decapitated, and then we went from 0 to 500 before we started to run into problems. But you see, I got a common law court summons from the common law court from John Smith for attacking for various things, but one of them in particular was for attacking the people by convening this common law court. Okay, and so one of the reasons is that we'd actually by trying to set up this independent body, we were attacking the people, and a grand jury.
Complete nonsense. Lyndon is complete nonsense. What he's saying to you is complete. It's complete. You haven't attacked anyone. You can set up common law court anywhere you want, at any time you want. John can't, or nobody can dictate. Let's forget, it's not about John. This is about the spirit of what common law is about. It's about the people being in control of the laws under which they live, and the people having an independent judiciary, which they control, and they can hold court at any moment in time. They can convene the court, get a convener or adjudicate, whatever you want to call them. Okay, they're not judges, because there's no judges in the Constitution. The only lawful judges are jurors. Okay, so you can convene a court at any time. You don't have to ask anyone's permission to do anything. John's court is an attempt to establish a court in Great Britain predominantly, and to trying to make it international, with a view to signing up people and creating a movement. But John's court does not represent the people of Great Britain or the people of the world, because the people of the world, people of Britain, don't know who he is, and they haven't signed up to him. And when he sends out his invitations, they're not included on it. So you can't claim that you have the word and the weight of the people, or you represent the people. I mean, that's borderline.
Okay, well, he said that a grand jury can only be, the purpose of a grand jury is to determine if crimes have been committed or not, and whether or not to subpoena a witness. Those are the uses of a grand jury in the statutory world. My argument against that was we were not interested in the statutory world. We were convening a common law court in the common law world. But John Smith got very sort of aggressive in his, because he put a newsline out after this as well to everybody. He has, the last time I looked before we parted company, there was somewhere around about 90 to 100,000 subscribers on the commonlawcourt.com website. So I don't know, but out of subscribers, I don't know how many of those subscribers would have gone and done their birth certificates and fictitious names. I'm saying, say about 70% of them. So the common law court subscriber base would be about 60, 70,000 people that have actually done that. So, but that would be, my understanding is when he convenes a common law court, he said the right way to do it is to advertise it and to get jury. Now, you and I have had some interesting conversations. And when you explained something to me a few days ago, it was a bit like the King's Clothes story. It's so obvious that I was a bit surprised that I'd actually accepted this 3 years ago. But can you tell the viewers how a jury should be selected and have a look at 70,000 or 100,000 people on Common Law Court's website, why that is not a good ground for selection of a jury, if you don't mind?
Well, firstly, a jury has to be of your peers. And the jury has to be representative of the body of people that it's claiming to represent. That's really important. So there's been a lot of common law courts that have been convened around the country over the last 5 or 6 years at least. And they can, the reason, the struggle at the moment is, it's powerful as a national setup because it represents the body of people in a country. So you imagine if we were in a world where people were being taught this in schools, the body of people is the full, let's just argue, say 70 million people in Great Britain. That's the body of people from which you're selecting the jury, right? That's the body of people that it represents. And so it has to be representative of that. So if someone was challenging the government vaccines, then there would need to be people that were pro-government policy and people that were against government policy within the jury for it to be representative, right? People wouldn't be able to be of the vaccine industry and be profiting from those vaccines because this is about freedom of choice. That's the point. In a case where it's going against the government, where it's people versus the government. In a situation like the common law court, when John runs any of the, and he did the same with Guardians 300. The Guardians 300 came out. Common law court were taking too long to release the resources, almost operating as a gatekeeper, if you like, throttling the knowledge getting to the people, in a more cynical view of it. And so Guardians 300, obviously created by military individuals. They don't like hanging around. They like to get the job done. They're doers. They're not sort of sitting there procrastinating. So we got on with it and we did it under their command. And that upset John because, again, he felt like he lost control. And that's the problem with the jury selection. It's a controlled jury selection. It's not representative. It's controlled because the only people that get to see it are those people that walk past either where it's advertised on the notice board. So in this instance, I believe it's on the notice board at the Common Law Court offices, which is in a private, secure estate in Dundee. So the only people that will see that go into the building. So those people would have to be included. So you could use your CCTV to work out who's been in and out. And then I suppose if you're advertising it on their website, you could have a look at how many visitors have been to the website. So you've got an idea of those numbers of people who've seen it. And if you really want to be generous, you could say, it includes the entire body of the 100,000, if that's how many members are there. But that's all it represents. So, the it's kind of unwritten and not said, but when John puts the people of the Common Law Court of Great Britain and Ireland International versus Guardians 300 or Linden or BPEX or whoever, trying to give it the impression that it's the nation. It's not. It's the body of people that have signed up Common Law Court. At best, they're the people who it represents. It's not the vast body of people. And again, those people are paying customers of John because they sign up on that website. They're his members.
Right.
Okay, they're registered to him, so they hand over control to him. They do so by giving over their birth certificates, and then he administers whatever bits and pieces he administers. Probably dips into trust funds and other bits and pieces. And he from there starts to leverage the control by then taking money for them from number plates and cards and other stuff. I paid for a card, never got it, for example. Right? Don't. So in that instance, because he's taken money, he can't be impartial. And they can't.
Well, the jury can't be impartial because the jury obviously would be made up of people that came from the commonlawcourt.com website. They would obviously know, they would be pro common law. They would know who John Smith is. And that is, like I said, it's a King's Close story.
Representative.
They know who he is, so they're going to find in his. They'll be highly biased to find it. That's a kangaroo court in anyone's will. So if you were running a correct court and selecting juries properly, you've got to select them from a jury of your peers. So if you're looking at a trial where a shopkeeper has been subjected to armed robbery, you've got to ask the jury if they've got any conflict of interest. I think is something that you said the other day to me. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to make sure that obviously if you've got certain cases, you need to make sure that people haven't got any bias or conflict of interest, and that's part of the juror selection and juror initiation process into the jury. There's processes for that when we go, Lysander Spoon and other stuff goes into that stuff, and that's just, to some degree, for people to work out. But that absolutely, it does have to be someone that's impartial.
So if they haven't done that, Sukh, if they haven't done that ever, then it could be said that every single common law court that's been performed by John Smith at commonlawcourt.com is void. If they haven't advertised properly and got a cross section of society.
So I like to try and look at it as coming from a consultant background, right? I try and frame it in the positive, so you have to bear with me a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I'd say is the verdict that the jury come to only applies in the context of the people who are represented, who that jury is representing, right? So if John Smith gets together, or I get together, or you get together, a club of our mates, and we sit down and hold a private jury against someone and deem them to be guilty or not guilty, then me and my mates think that person's guilty, and that's all that jury means.
Okay.
Right? If someone wants to claim that their jury is representative of the nation, then the jury selection has to be from the nation. There has to have been enough reasonable time and infrastructure and everything else put in place so that people from the nation reasonably had time to view that and respond to it to be part of a jury. And that's in a situation where people understand that that's an option for them. In the current situation that we're in today, people don't really have an understanding of advertising for juries for lawful courts, right? So because and this is really important, it's the spirit with which the operation is being run that really determines, is it being run under natural law, common law, or not? So in this instance, anyone running a common law court today would say, well, if normally we would have allowed 3 weeks, in this instance, we might need to allow 6 weeks. And we may need to advertise in more places because people aren't used to it. And there may need to be almost a small advertising campaign to try and get jurors in, because you're not trying to get away with the minimum amount. that you can get away with to get the thing through the door. This isn't legal or corporate contract. This is about intent. So for the intent to be right, you've got to have an honest approach to canvassing the jury from the people and giving the people the opportunity to engage with it. Okay. So so hiding a notice on your private members' doors and your private member website isn't reasonably good attempt at canvassing representative people of the country in order to hold a verdict. Okay,
can I ask you about a unanimous decision? Does it, under common law, does it have to be unanimous or not?
No, not at all, to be honest. If there's any doubt that someone's guilty, then that person is innocent. Right? You're innocent until proven guilty. And in the common law, it is a far greater crime to imprison an innocent person than to let a guilty person go free.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So So and because of that, logically, if one person in the jury thinks that there's doubt to the claim and that the intent isn't what they're claiming, then that person is innocent.
Interesting.
So you don't need a unanimous jury. You need what in the claim of, say, living to living, where there's harm, living man to living man, or woman to woman, where there's harm. It would just need to be one jury member that says, I think that Sukh didn't do it, or Lyndon didn't do it, or John didn't do it, and that's enough for there to be doubt, and therefore that person can be found free. Equally, if it's individual versus government, it only needs to be one member of the jury that agrees that the government legislation has infringed on the right of the claimant, the defendant, depending which way around it's turned up in court, of the individual, the sovereign, and that government legislation is annulled.
Oh wow!
Right, so that requires
very interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that annulment bit, that annulment by trial by jury bit, is something that, in fact, none of the common law people really have nailed that, particularly the old timers that have been around, whether that's Michael Benicio or John Smith or any of the others. The only one that really has picked that is Will Keith from the British Constitution Group, with the stuff from Ken Doody's Democracy Defined book, and understanding that. I mean, it really is the jewel in the crown of the people and the power that you have. Okay. And once you understand that simple process, you don't need to rewrite Magna Carta. You simply understand it because it's just logical. That's it.
I mean, this is just opening up a whole new field of study for me. The thing I want, because that created a problem when we first started talking. It was like, hang on, Sukh, we were trying to do this common law court in Spain, and we were thinking, let's do a grand jury, and then we got attacked from all angles for what we were doing. And then spoke to you about that, and I think you were saying, why did you need to do a jury of a common law court of anything? What you were doing was setting up 3 websites and an independent body. You didn't need to do a court for that. Okay, I think it all stems back from, if you're going to be a constable protecting the people, that constable's got to be a lawful individual, the constable body, because people say, where do you get the authority from to create an independent constable body? Where does that come from? You know?
The authority that you get to create the body comes from the fact that you, as a sovereign individual, have chosen to uphold the natural law as part of the common law setup of the realm, right?
Yeah.
So you already have the authority of a constable. I have it now. I have exactly the same authority today that a constable in uniform has. They have no additional authority.
Right.
Okay. So the notion that you would have to go and set up or do anything or go through any ritual in order to set up a constable body,
okay,
to me is farcical.
Right.
You are already a constable. This is one thing that having gone to the sort of common law court in Dundee and been in the first tranche of people that did the training with David Leahy.
You and I sat in the same room, didn't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And having gone through that journey, the one thing that's become quite clear and apparent is you don't need actually to set up a separate body.
Right.
Okay. You already, by this, when I say this is the best time to be alive, and this is the greatest country to be in at this point in time, apart from in Texas with enough ammunition to destroy the cabal, right? Right. No, just kidding, right? But this is the best time to be alive, is because this is where this power and this sovereignty of the people was formed, and this is where it happened, right? So you have it. You have the authority to help people and to stop harm and injury being done to people, and to stand by your fellow brethren who are, you know, part of the realm. So you have that authority to be a constable. It's the fact that you're born and you're alive and you're of good conscience, and that you go around. That's it. That's the authority. You don't need it. There's no written paper gives you that as such.
So the mistake we made was sitting there chatting to Bruce and Dolores and said, when they said, let's do a common law court for the authority of the people, we should have just said, go do it anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was it. Can you leave? Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, just one little caveat to that. In a situation where you're dealing with the United Kingdom and not Great Britain, because United Kingdom is the corporation, the legal entity. Right. Great Britain is the natural region. So let's refer to that as the lawful entity at this point. That's why it's United Kingdom of Great Britain. Right. So if you're in that United Kingdom jurisdiction and you are looking at setting up a police force or constabulary within that, then John and other people could be nervous that they could get done for sedition for setting up some sort of a parallel competitive constabulary to that within the United Kingdom jurisdiction.
Okay.
Eagle framework, right? But for you to collect a body of people to operate under the law, to uphold the law, isn't only completely allowed without any permission. Within the Constitution, there is an article that actually states that if you believe the government is operating tyrannically, you are duty bound to operate as independent consultants with your oath and your loyalty to the realm and the people and freedom and sovereignty and freedom of choice and everything that true democracy, i.e. being annulment by trial by jury, and your power through that to control the laws under which you live, not voting in elections. Annulment by trial by jury is true democracy. Right? Through that, you are then able to exercise that power.
All right. Well, can you finish off? I mean, you're obviously a very deep pool of knowledge and information here, which we could keep this going all night. Just can you finish off with the viewers, because you and I have a couple of little chats about the word anarchy, and you know, I'm more and more leaning towards becoming a complete anarchist. Okay, and a lot of people think that's rioting in the streets and complete lawlessness. And can you sort of frame that in the concept of what happened in Spain and what we're doing in a little bit of a fallout with common law court? So just if you can finish off on that, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, of course. Look, hierarchy is hierarchical. It looks like that. So people are organized hierarchically, and it's a top-down approach to organization. Anarchy is like that. It's flat. So everyone is equal. The responsibility to identify something, fix something, and solve something lies equally with everyone. See it, say it, sort it, if you like. You know, so you're seeing something and it needs sorting. So in an anarchist environment, people sort out their own problems. So if you and I are walking down the street and we see a pothole, we'll do what we can to arrange for that pothole. We'll get the right people together to fix the pothole, right? So as a community, we'll just fix it. There won't be a council that will fix it. We'll just see the pothole and we'll fix it like you would in rural India or Africa or China or whatever, right? There isn't a council to call, right? The local people, there's a hole in their road, they fix it.
Okay.
In a hierarchical situation, we see a hole in the road today. We're not allowed to fix it. if we, we have to phone the council and log a call and let them know there's a hole on, 30, whatever street down the road, and they'll have to come and get it. So anarchy is self-organizing individuals, nothing to do with burning police cars in and setting light to shit stuff, chaos. That's a nonsense form of anarchy. True anarchy is self-organizing people, self-organizing teams. So what you did was self-organized and got going. You did exactly what Guardians 300 did. You saw that there was a problem. You saw that the individuals who were creating the problem weren't going to be able to solve it. So then you're left with two decisions. In the spiritual realm, you're left with two decisions. Either allow the individual who is stuck, in this instance, it was John Smith at Common Law Court, who is stuck in their own mind and their insecurity or ego, or whatever it is that doesn't allow them to progress, and you sit behind them, or as a man, as an alpha male leader, you find a way around the problem and you make sure your duty spiritually of sharing the knowledge that is the people's knowledge. It's not John Smith's knowledge, it's the people's knowledge. To share it with them, you do everything you need to do to get that knowledge out to them. And that's what you did. So you operated, not only did you operate spiritually correctly, you operated lawfully correctly. The only thing you did was upset people who were not really in the spirit of common law and open source and open-hearted abundance and generosity. Why would you not want people to share knowledge?
Yeah, exactly.
This is nonsense. But if you should be going, actually, thank God I was stuck. You guys are here. That's awesome. You guys carry it now. I'll catch up with you when I'm ready.
Brilliant. Yeah.
That's abundant thinking. That's like teamwork, right? Any of the initiatives that are out there at the moment, doesn't matter what initiative is, who's working on it. If there's a gap and you propose that gap and someone doesn't accept the solution and doesn't have one themselves, then that should be ringing alarm bells for you. Just because someone's sweet and sends nice messages and talks to people nicely, that's not a reason to follow them. Right? You follow a leader because they are well thought through, they're considered, they got a battle strategy. Hell, you might even think they're a bit of an asshole, but they need to be well thought through, well considered, have integrity, and really understand logically what it is they're doing and why it's being done that way. Right?
So,
and democracy is the highest form of anarchy.
That is absolutely awesome, right? And thank you very much for agreeing to come here. I'm going to hand over to you to say thank you and good night to the viewers. Thank you very much for your time today, Sukh.
No, thank you, Lyndon. Thank you, everyone, for watching at the end of the day. Look, it's a great time to be alive. It's a great war. The common law and the Constitution of England is a wonderful piece of heritage, and it spans back thousands of years. So getting an independent judiciary in place and freeing the children going forward is the #1 priority. And I look forward to being at the party when we achieve it. Take care. Thank you.